Zordon has always been one of the most important characters in Power Rangers and, at the same time, one of the most beloved by all fans. Many first met him in 1993 at the beginning of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and some fans think that this was the only physical form this character ever had, but the reality is that we have seen him in many different forms. In this video, we are going to explore all of Zordon's transformations or physical forms from 1993 to 2025. Obviously, we must start with his first appearance in 1993, as this was the first physical appearance we saw of this character, and it is his most famous look. This physical form is simple, a face inside a glass tube with very strange movements. His face had some rather strange special effects that distorted it greatly, and this had an important purpose. At the beginning of Power Rangers, they didn't want to spend a lot of money on the production of this series, so they filmed several scenes of the actor who played Zordon, and this is what was used throughout the series. For this reason, they had to distort the face a lot so that the lips didn't have to match the words Zordon was speaking, and this way the character could say anything and always look normal. We began to see the next physical form later on. They used the same scenes, but in this version, they didn't distort the face as much. In this version, Zordon's face looks more defined, and his facial expressions can be seen better. Another important thing is that the tube has a better base, and although this made it look less imposing, it actually looked more futuristic. We saw this version in series such as Turbo and also in Space. After many years, even though many thought we would never see Zordon again, he reappeared in Cosmic Fury. This time, we were given one of the most unexpected versions of this character, as we saw him with Zito's body. The only difference in his appearance was his blue eyes, and although this was a little strange since Zordon did not have blue eyes, we understood that it was a clear reference to the blue color of the tube. In this version of Zordon, they used Zito's body because the character said that in that place where they were, the other person would see what their heart wanted to see. I think this was a good way to have an excuse not to have to find an actor to play Zordon and perhaps remove the mental image we had had since 1993, as the original actor may no longer be the right age to play the character now. These are all the versions of Zordon within the Power Rangers canon, but outside the canon there are some very interesting variations and important content that are still part of the franchise. Let's start with the comics and Zordon's first appearance, which was before the war with Rita. Before being locked in a tube, Zordon was a soldier on his home planet and his skin was blue. In this version, Zordon also had no hair, and although the comics mentioned the reasons why he had no hair, it's not really important for this video. After everything that happened with Rita, in the comics we also saw his version locked in the tube, but since this version is the same as the one on television, we're not going to count this version as a new transformation. Later, in other comic book stories, we are shown a new version of Zordon in which he is traveling through the Morphin grid. It is a different kind of connection since in some cases this happened after his death and in other cases, he could make this journey even though he was inside the tube. Basically, it is a version within the grid in which we can see his entire body, but it is like an energy body. In this version, he has no clothes, his body is shiny, and his eyes are white. The next version of Zordon is one of the most creative I have seen, as in this version they used a robotic body so that the character could have more action. Basically, this body is an avatar that Zordon can control, and his head is not his real head, but a projection. In this way, they were able to stop Zordon from being a floating head that couldn't fight and turned him into a very powerful warrior, which brings him back to his days as a soldier. Now we must talk about the movies or series that are outside the canon, and we must start with the 1995 movie. In this movie, we saw two different versions of Zordon, and the first one we are going to analyze is the tube version. Because it is a movie, in this version they did film all the scenes in which the character has dialogue, and that is why this was the first version of the tube that we could see without distortion. In this version, Zordon has white skin, and the crystal of the tube is transparent. Another important thing is that the base of the tube is impressive, and inside it has a crystal that we were never told the meaning of. The other version of Zordon that we see in this movie was after the villain broke the tube, and when the Rangers arrived, we could see the character's body. Here we can confirm that his skin is white in this version and that it was not the lighting effects of the tube. We can also see that he has a rather wrinkled face, although in the story of the film, Zordon ages quickly if he is outside the tube. This is a very different story from the series, since in the series Zordon dies when the tube is broken, but in this film we could see his body. Something important that many may not have noticed is that in this version, we are never shown the character's arms or legs, and we could only see that his clothes covered his entire body. This increases the intrigue about the character and makes us feel that he is a strange being who is not like any human. Another curious detail about this version is that he has no ears, which may be a reference to the fact that the character's ears were also not visible in the 1993 version. Now let's talk about the different versions of Zordon that we saw in the 2017 movie, since this movie was a reboot of Mighty Morphin and we also saw the character here. At the beginning of the film, we saw the first version of Zordon, and although this was only for a short time, it was truly spectacular. In the story of this film, Zordon was also a Power Ranger, and due to the conflict with Rita, he had to bury the power coins. Because of this, Zordon loses his transformation, and we were able to see his entire body. His skin is dark gray and has many lines all over his body. This quickly makes us think that he obviously comes from another planet and at the same time gives the character a lot of style. His eyes are quite light in color, very similar to green or almost gray. Later in the movie, we saw the next version of this character, and this was a radical change since it was meant to represent the tube version in a different way. In this second version of the film, we can see that Zordon's face emerges from a very large wall made up of small metal fragments. These fragments move, allowing us to see Zordon's face. These fragments also reflect the color red, which is a reference to Zordon being the Red Ranger. A very important detail is that Zordon can move across the entire wall, which gives him a lot of versatility to express himself, since in the original version the character could not move. The last transformation or physical appearance of Zordon that we will analyze in this video is the one we will see in the Ninja Kid series, which is part of the franchise since it is supported by Hasbro. The Ninja Kids made several versions of Zordon previously in their Power Ranger series, but we are not going to discuss them in this video since they were always fan-made. The new episodes are supported by Hasbro, so for this reason, they become episodes that are part of the franchise, although they are not part of the canon. At the time of creating this video, the new series has not yet been released, which is why we are only showing the character's concept art. Some fans think this image was created with artificial intelligence, but since it is concept art, I think it is acceptable. In this version, we can see that Zordon's face also comes out of a wall, but this time the wall is white. The wall has an ice-like texture, and Zordon's eyes are white, as if they were filled with energy. The Ninja Kids always used the 2017 movie version of Zordon as a reference to create their own version, but this new version looks like a mix of the 2017 Zordon and the 1995 movie version. Write in the comments if we're missing any other versions of Zordon, like this video, and subscribe to learn more about Power Rangers.